What ancient foods vanished from our plates, and why does it matter today? Their choices were driven by survival and rich knowledge of the land. They ate roots, nuts, berries, greens, and more long before farms or markets existed. Scientists estimate over 108 billion humans have lived and died on Earth, yet those earliest foragers set the menu we still follow. They moved in small bands where every find, every flavor could mean the difference between feast and famine. What wild treasures did they know and love that we have all but forgotten? Early foragers dug deep into the earth to uncover hidden stores of nutrition. Skirret and salsify were prized underground staples. Skirret's slender roots grew in tight clusters that could be left in the ground until needed. Salsify's long white taproot survived winter frost and provided last resort nourishment when no other vegetables remained. Along marshy edges, they harvested cattail rhizomes and water lily bulbs. Cattail rhizomes peeled easily to reveal starchy cores. Water lily bulbs required more work. Each segment had to be pulled apart and roasted over coals to remove bitter coatings. Yet in spring, these watery bulbs offered vital calories after long winters. Cavemen used pointed sticks and stone blades to dig these treasures. They followed subtle clues, mounded soil or broken stalks to find the best spots. Once roots were unearthed, they rinsed them in streams or wiped soil away with leaves. Some roots were eaten raw for a crisp, sweet bite. Others were boiled or roasted in embers until soft and fragrant. Compared with modern potatoes, these forgotten roots had unique advantages. They stored in the ground without rotting and tolerated cold better than tubers that spoil quickly. Nutritionally, skirret and salsify offered comparable calories and higher levels of iron and calcium. Their natural sugars gave long-lasting energy without the rapid spike and crash of refined starches. These foraged roots and tubers show that survival meant working with nature's hidden pantry. With simple tools and deep knowledge of the land, early humans turned rough soil into steady food supplies that fueled every hunt and hearth. Which wild nuts and seeds powered their energy needs? Wild nuts and seeds packed years of nourishment into small packages. Hazelnuts grew in abundance along woodland edges. Their hard shells protected rich, creamy kernels full of healthy fats and protein. Cavemen cracked them with stone hammers or set up simple traps to catch squirrels that raided nut trees. Acorns offered another calorie-dense snack but required careful preparation. Hunters collected fallen acorns, then leached out bitter tannins by soaking and rinsing in fresh-running water or repeated boilings. The result was a mild, nutty meal that could be ground into coarse flour or eaten whole. High in calories and easy to gather, pine nuts came from towering pines. Early foragers climbed low branches or collected fallen cones. By cracking open each cone, they released tiny seeds that tasted buttery and sweet. Pine nuts were often eaten raw or mixed with crushed roots to make a paste. Seeds, such as goosefoot and maygrass, filled gaps when nuts were scarce. They harvested seed heads by cutting stalks and beating them over woven baskets. Dry seeds were pounded with stones to separate chaff. The resulting flour could be mixed with water to form simple cakes or thick porridge that kept hunger at bay. These wild nuts and seeds provided reliable energy, essential fats, and vital minerals. They fueled long hunts and cold nights. By mastering collection and preparation techniques, early humans turned scattered woodland treasures into dependable stores of power. What bright fruits and berries brightened their diet? When strawberries and raspberries were still unknown, early humans gathered elderberries and blackberries at peak ripeness. They learned to look for the deepest color and softest texture. A handful of sweet berries picked midday provided quick energy on long hunts. Service berries and wild plums offered fresh sweetness that felt like a gift from summer. Service berries grew on small trees near streams. Early foragers popped them from branches into woven baskets. Wild plums hung low on thorny shrubs. Hunters pushed aside brambles carefully to reach each juicy fruit. Rose hips were prized in autumn and winter. These bright red fruits packed vitamin C to ward off illness in cold months. After gathering rose hips, they removed seeds and fine hairs, then boiled or crushed the pulp into a thick syrup. This simple remedy helped protect against scurvy and kept spirits high. Drying and preserving methods turned fresh fruits into lasting stores. Berries were spread on flat stones or woven mats to dry in the sun. In cooler weather, they hung clusters from low tree branches or packed them into hollow logs. Once dried, fruits could be eaten like chewy candy or rehydrated in water or broth for a quick meal. By mastering wild fruits and berries, early humans added variety and vital nutrients to their diet. Sweetness balanced the starch of roots and the fat of nuts. Their careful timing and simple preserving techniques ensured that the taste of summer could carry them through lean seasons. Which leafy greens kept them healthy and strong? Purslane, lamb's quarters, and nettles grew in open fields and along trails. These greens were rich in nutrients. Purslane's succulent leaves held omega fatty acids. Lamb's quarters offered protein and minerals. Nettles, once cooked, became a mild spinach substitute with extra iron. Wild spinach and dandelion added bulk and vitamins. Spinach leaves grew in shaded woodland clearings. Dandelion leaves sprouted in spring and spread quickly across grasslands. Early foragers picked the youngest leaves first. They knew older leaves tasted bitter. They identified edible plants by watching animals and testing small bites. If a deer or rabbit ate a plant without harm, hunters marked it on their mental maps. When trying a new green, they chewed a tiny piece and waited for any reaction. If their mouth stung or their stomach churned, they knew to spit it out and avoid that plant forever. Cooking methods softened bitter leaves. Greens were blanched in boiling water, collected over hot stones, or roasted on coals until tender. Some leaves were pounded between flat stones to break down tough fibers. Others were mixed with crushed roots or nuts to mask strong flavors. Together, these edible greens provided essential iron, calcium, and vitamins that roots and fruits could not. By collecting and preparing a variety of wild salad plants, early humans maintained strength and health through every season. What watery plants sustained them by rivers and lakes? In spring, watercress sprouted near clear streams and shallow rivers. Its peppery leaves were snipped by hand and eaten fresh or pounded into pesto with crushed seeds. Young cattail shoots peeled easily and tasted like sweet corn. Foragers cut only the tender center shoots, leaving the plant to regrow. On coastal shores, sea kale and marsh samphire thrived in salty sands. Sea kale's young leaves resembled cabbage with a mild flavor. Marsh samphire, also called sea asparagus, offered crunchy stalks that popped with salty juice. Both grew in tight patches, making gathering quick and abundant. Edible algae and pondweed provided moisture on hot days. Foragers skimmed thin layers of green or brown algae from rocks and logs. They rinsed it in fresh water, then dried it on stones or ground it into a soft paste. Pondweed seeds and threads offered extra protein and kept them hydrated when freshwater sources ran low. Foraging near water carried risks and rewards. Slippery banks could lead to falls. Fast currents could sweep away small boats. The water's edge also attracted animals and birds. Hunters found fish eggs under rocks and freshwater mussels in mud. By learning to read ripples and currents, they turned watery zones into reliable dining halls. Aquatic plants and algae added unique textures and nutrients. They balanced the diet with vitamins and minerals not found on dry land. In a world without farms, these watery foods deepened the menu and strengthened every forager who knew how to harvest them safely. How did they use fungi and mushrooms in their meals? Mushrooms added rich umami depth to prehistoric meals. Morels hid in leaf litter on forest floors. Their honeycomb caps and hollow stems made them easy to spot in spring. Puffball mushrooms appeared as round white orbs among grass. When young and firm, they were sliced and roasted on hot stones, releasing a mild, nutty flavor. Truffles and chanterelles grew in symbiosis with tree roots. Hunters sniffed the earth for faint, earthy aromas that marked truffle spots. Chanterelles showed themselves with bright yellow folds beneath oak and pine trees. Early foragers prized these mushrooms for their complex tastes, knowing that few other foods could match their intensity. Cautionary tests prevented deadly mistakes. A small bite of an unfamiliar mushroom might be chewed and then spat out, with hunters watching for any burning in the mouth or dizziness. Some species that stained silver utensils were avoided altogether, since discoloration signaled acidity. Trial and error over generations built a mental catalog of safe and poisonous varieties. Drying and storage extended mushroom benefits into off-season. Sliced morels and chanterelles were draped on tree branches or woven racks to dry in sun and shade. Once brittle, they were stored in woven bags hung near the fire. When rehydrated in boiling water or soup, they regained much of their original texture and flavor, turning cold months into a time of warm, comforting stews. Mushrooms united flavor with survival. They boosted nutrient intake and enlivened simple broths. In the wild, fungi were both a treat and a test of skill, a reminder that food found above ground could be as vital as roots dug below. What creepy, crawly protein sources filled their bellies? Insects served as secret protein treasures for early humans. Ant larvae and termite mounds were dug up with sticks or stones. The soft white larvae tasted rich and creamy, almost like fresh cheese. Foragers prioritized nests near rotting wood, using smoke to drive insects out before collecting them in leaf baskets. Grasshoppers offered a quick, crunchy snack when roasted over embers. Hunters speared them on thin sticks or simply tossed them onto hot coals. The crackle of chitin and earthy flavor provided a portable, high-energy treat during long journeys. Beetle grubs lived deep in decaying logs. Foragers pried open, rotten wood with pointed tools, then picked out white grubs that grew fat on rotting sap. These grubs were a prized delicacy, high in protein and fat, eaten raw or lightly warmed by fire. Cultural views on insects varied by region. Some bands considered them luxury foods reserved for elders or warriors returning from successful hunts. Others ate insects routinely as part of daily rations. Insects also featured in ritual feasts, symbolizing strength and renewal. Insect foraging required careful observation. Hunters learned which nests were safe and which insects carried stings or toxins. By mastering insect habits, they turned creepy crawlers into reliable nutrition sources. In the vast buffet of nature, bugs filled the gaps between roots, shoots, and meat, proof that nothing edible was overlooked in the prehistoric pantry. Which wild grains and grasses did they gather? Wild grains marked the bridge to true agriculture. Seeds of wild barley and einkorn wheat grew in open plains and river valleys. Foragers collected seed heads by cutting stalks with flint blades, then beating them over woven baskets to release kernels. Goosefoot and amaranth provided additional grain sources. These plants thrived on disturbed soils near camps. Harvesters shook seed clusters into cloth sacks, then pounded them with stones to separate edible grains from chaff. Pounding and winnowing methods required teamwork. After crushing dried stalks on flat stones, they tossed the resulting mix into air currents. Lighter chaff blew away, leaving denser grains behind. This simple flour formed the basis for flat cakes or thick porridge cooked on hot stones. Wild grains offered concentrated calories and easy storage. Once dried, they could last through lean seasons. Their regular gathering also encouraged longer stays in certain locations, setting the stage for planting and cultivation. By harnessing wild grasses early, humans developed the concept of sowing and reaping. They observed best growing conditions and saved seeds from high-yield plants. Over generations, this led to selective planting and the first true crops. In wild grains and early cereals, the ingredients of farming lay hidden, evidence that prehistoric foragers were not just survivors, but innovators. Their humble grain gatherings became the seed of agriculture itself. Which herbs and plants healed as well as fed them? Yarrow and sage grew near streams and clearings. Early humans crushed yarrow leaves into poultices for wounds and brewed sage tea for fevers. These herbs stopped bleeding and eased pain in ways simple yet powerful. Sweet cicely and lovage added flavor and aided digestion. Foragers chewed sweet cicely roots to soothe upset stomachs. Lovage leaves flavored soups and stews, while its oils helped settle digestive troubles. These plants bridged the gap between food and medicine. Mint and wild garlic brightened meals and boosted health. Fresh mint leaves rubbed on skin cooled sunburn. Wild garlic bulbs crushed into sauces fought infections with natural compounds. Both herbs offered vitamins and minerals that strengthened the body. Food and medicine overlapped naturally in forager culture. A single plant might heal a cut one day and spice a stew the next. Knowledge passed by word of mouth taught which blooms to gather and which teas to brew. There were no pharmacies, but the land provided cures where needed. By weaving these herbs into daily cooking and first aid, early humans reinforced their connection to nature. Every meal became an opportunity to nourish and to heal. This holistic approach kept bands healthy and resilient in the face of constant challenges. How can we bring these ancient foods back today? Reintroducing these wild species into modern diets boosts nutrition and reconnects us to our roots. Nutrient-rich roots and greens can diversify meals. Berries and nuts offer natural flavors and healthy fats. Herbs and spices improve both taste and well-being. Community foraging projects bring people together to learn identification and sustainable harvesting. Workshops teach safe gathering of mushrooms or edible greens. Heirloom seed banks preserve rare plant varieties like salsify and skirret for home gardens. Simple recipes honor cavemen traditions. Roasted tubers with crushed pine nuts celebrate ancient combinations. Fresh greens wilted in broth with wild garlic echo prehistoric stews. Berry syrups made from dried elderberries recall makeshift preserves of our ancestors. Reviving these forgotten treasures could transform our relationship with food. Local foraging reduces waste and carbon footprints. Home gardens of forgotten plants foster self-sufficiency. Schools could teach children to identify edible weeds, opening young minds to nature's bounty. Final thought: what might happen if we let these ancient foods back into our lives? We could enhance our meals, improve our health, and build deeper bonds with the land. By reclaiming the 15 wild foods our ancestors foraged, we reconnect to deep human knowledge, boost our nutrition, and honor the spirit of survival that shaped every dawn in prehistoric times. By bringing these lost foods into modern kitchens, we not only enrich our plates, but also renew a timeless tradition of living in harmony with nature